in the nick of time. Our very best to you, the Nickname Show.
You can't enter the ring unless you have a nickname.
And I got Dion and his 27 nicknames with me. Need a nickname? Maybe he'll lend you one.
Not so fast. I'll give out the nicknames around here. Like Jim Two Silhouettes on Deshays. We've got TV nicknames, J. Thurston B. Howell. And food nicknames, the Leaning Tower of Gorgonzola. Historical names from the White House to the Swami's house.
There's no business like show business. There's no.
Here's the throw to the end zone to Chris Cab Calloway. Howdy, 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 hi. Howdy, 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 ho. It's 21-0, and there they go. From my all-time top 10 nicknames to this guy's list.
The category from the home office in Sioux City, Iowa. Top 10 nicknames for Chris Berman.
Blast Berman. I love it. I think it's fabulous.
Stupid, stupid, stupid. Ho, ho, ho. Merry Christmas, everybody. I'm Chris Berman, and welcome to the Nickname Show. I guess that kind of makes me Old Saint Nickname, doesn't it? We hope that everyone's been having a great day and evening with their family and friends and loved ones, but we've got a present that you've yet to unwrap. It's a gift for kids from 1 to 92. In the next half hour, we'll give you a belly full of laughs that would make even Santa proud. Yeah, I've been doling out these nicknames here on ESPN for about a decade and a half now, but if you think about it, that's just a blip on the radar screen. Nicknames. They've been around forever. Alexander the Great, Eric the Red, Ivan the Terrible. What are you watching from the chair? Shit! Baseball was a natural from the beginning. In the 1870s, we were introduced to Jack Death to Flying Things Chapman because of his defensive wizardry. By the turn of the century, the most popular monikers were hometowns and animals. Amos Rusey, the Hoosier Thunderbolt, and Johnny the Grab Evers from that famed Cubs double play combination. In the 1920s, nicknames almost always carried an image of a player's looks or his ability. So appropriately, the already nicknamed Babe Ruth became the Sultan of SWAT. But he wasn't alone. Rogers Hornsby was the Raja of SWAT. And Giants manager John McGraw, looking for a Jewish drawing card, signed minor league home run phenom Moses Solomon, the Rabbi of SWAT. He lasted 2 games. Nicknames got nasty in the 30s and often referred to a player's physical appearance or limitations. Ernie Lombardi, the Schnoz. Hazen Kyler was nicknamed Kiki because he stuttered as a youth. While later in the 50s, Don Mossy was the Sphinx for his humongous ears.
I'm all ears.
As nicknames continued to evolve, one pattern remained consistent. The word "the" was used as a form of respect for outstanding players. The Georgia Peach, the Big Train, the Yankee Clipper, the Splendid Splinter, and the Say Hey Kid.
Every fighter's got to have a nickname. If you don't have a nickname on the back of your robe, or if Michael Buffer cannot announce you with a nickname, you might as well go home. You're not going to win.
Introducing first, fighting out of the red corner, wearing the white trunks with black trim, weighing 159 pounds, from Malden, Massachusetts, Dana Rosen. Wait a minute, this guy doesn't have a nickname. He can't fight, he doesn't have a nickname.
From the Prince of Fives, as in Five Knuckles, for the first great heavyweight champ, John L. Sullivan, to the Manasseh Mauler, Jack Dempsey, to the Ambling Alp, Primo Carnera, who is also known as the Leaning Tower of Gorgonzola, who lost the heavyweight title to the Livermore Larriper, Max Baer, who later lost to the Brown Bomber, Joe Louis, who lost his last fight to Rocky Marciano, who knocked out the old mongoose, Archie Moore, to retire unbeaten. Marciano didn't fight the first Rocky, Rocky Kansas, or Rocky Graziano. He was a middleweight. Rocky Balboa, yo, Adrian, or The Rock.
Fight, 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 fight.
The Gipper, Dutch, who played the Gipper, the Duke, and the Duke who played football at USC. Other gridiron greats, the Galloping Ghost, the Four Horsemen, the Fearsome Foursome, the Monsters of the Midway, the Purple People Eaters, the Over the Hill Gang.
Then I got Dion and his 27 nicknames with me. Need a nickname? Maybe he'll lend you one.
Excuse me, but you don't give yourself a nickname. You know, somebody else has got to give it to you, or it don't count.
That count teaches numbers. This count taught strikeouts. Basketball teaches the alphabet. Dr. J, Coach K, Ernie D, the Big E, the Big O, not that Big O, and the Big Z.
I want to talk about stupid NBA nicknames. Baby Jordan, stupid, 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 stupid.
What about round mound of Reebok?
What about chicken for dinner?
Then there are the unknown nicknames. Pele. No one knows what it means or where it came from.
There was even a fighter called Unknown Winston, whose name was Ed Winston. I don't know why he became unknown. That's unknown.
Sometimes those nicknames do seem to come out of thin air, don't they? On other occasions, a nickname can become one's accepted name. Whitey Herzog was born Darrell Herzog. Sparky Anderson was born George Anderson. And what about Frank Edwin McGraw? When he was just a baby, he went for his first breastfeeding, and his mother looked down, saw how enthusiastic Frank Edwin was working, and immediately said, "What a little tugger," hence Tug McGraw. How about these names? Can you sync these up? I don't think so. Did you know that Alfred Manuel Pezano was really Billy Martin? Melvin Israel, the famed announcer Mel Allen. Walker Smith, Sugar Ray Robinson, I don't think you would have known that. How about Arnold Raymond Cream as Jersey Joe Walcott? Well, he tried to cream people in the ring. And Edson Arantes de Nascimento is really Pele. Well, we've taken our first bite out of our nickname platter, but now that I mentioned food, getting a little hungry, aren't you? Maybe our friend George Taco Bell can help us out a little bit. But actually, we'd rather have a full meal. Maitre d', the menu, please.
Holiday greetings from
Christmas. We're thankful we get to live in a country where freedom has no bounds.
We wish you a Merry Christmas.
But most especially, we're thankful for the people who make our jobs possible.
And a Happy New Year.
To all our vendor partners who bring us our great products, and to all our wonderful customers who buy them, may this be the merriest Christmas.
About to hit the game-winning free throw with no time left. And he makes it look. Oh, he just.
Get in there!
He just.
Oh, dang it!
Little help!
Son of a... Come on!
And he makes it look this easy. Of course, it was harder for him with all the screaming fans and the pressure.
Berman's Best, the nickname show, is brought to you by Budweiser.
Never be your beast or Berman, but how about, and it's a hard one, Chris, Ricky, don't lose that numb Berman.
Ooh, that could be a keeper. That could be a hit. We've assembled some of the best bands in the history of rock and roll together on one stage. Here's my top 10 rock and roll nickname list as it might appear in Billboard magazine. I get asked all the time, when did you get started with this nickname stuff? Well, we have to go back to the dark ages, the mid-'70s, before they had cable. I was at school at Brown University, and a group of us would sit around, look at box scores of baseball, kind of nickname the players, all the while sipping on our favorite beverage, Perrier, of course. Now, fast forward to ESPN. We began in the fall of 1979. The first baseball season was the summer of 1980. We're sitting out there doing that 3 a.m. show all by our lonesome, kind of looking like this. Wow, what happened? I was thin, I had hair. At any rate, a couple of them came out. I don't know what they were, either Frank Tanana Daiquiri or John Mayberry RFD. Well, I had thought I'd said a George Carlin four-letter word, but the producer was laughing in my earpiece, the camera person was shaking around. Right then, we knew we had created a monster. Since then, we've come up with 600, 700, who knows, 800 nicknames. If we had an all-star team taking the field right now, this is how they'd line up. My first baseman is the crime dog, Fred McGriff. Whoa. Honestly, this nickname has probably stuck more than any other one I've come up with. At second base, Chuck, New Kids on Knobloch. When he was Rookie of the Year a couple years ago, it was perfect. Shortstop, Walt Three Blind Weiss. Every child knows him. At third base, Terry Pitt in the Pendleton. That's for you Edgar Allan Poe fans. Behind the plate is Tony Jalapeno, who spices up every game he plays in. In the outfield, Kirby Union Gap Puckett. Now, I admit, many of his fans have never heard Gary Puckett sing Young Girl or Lady Willpower. Also in the outfield, Juan Going Gonzalez. Pretty much describes his home runs, doesn't it? And outfielder Sammy Say It Ain't Sosa, a baseball nickname with some baseball history to it. At DH, George Taco Bell. When he hits a homer, they're Burrito Supremes. My starting pitcher is Andy Merchant of Venice. That's for you William Shakespeare fans. In relief, J. Thurston B. Howell. His career has been much more eventful than a trip to an uncharted desert isle. And managing this club, Jim Bella Fergosi. What a perfect manager for those Gas House Gang Phillies. So we've got our ball club, and now we need somebody to throw out the first pitch. Well, on this show, we go right to the top, like the White House. Presidents have been a fixture at baseball games for a century. FDR. He always enjoyed his afternoons at the ball yard. Give him hell, Harry Truman could throw out the first pitch with either hand. Richard Nixon made it perfectly clear that he was a good pitcher. JFK threw out the first pitch with that great vigor. And, well, Ronald Reagan always liked baseball from way back when. Presidents always had nicknames as well, long before I was around. Just as I can't take credit for the nickname Babe Ruth, I can't take a bow for some classic presidential monikers throughout history, like Honest Abe Lincoln, Old Hickory for Andrew Jackson, Silent Cal Coolidge, or even Tricky Dick Nixon. But maybe I could have been useful for some terms in the White House. I mean, how much talent does it take to call a president JFK, LBJ, or FDR? It's great if you're monogramming shirts or luggage, but initials just don't cut it. I would have preferred Franklin Ramblin' Roosevelt. Or maybe because of the Pacific Theater in World War II, Franklin Tokyo Roosevelt. Teddy Roosevelt was one of the most intriguing presidents and most active sportsmen. Not only did he ride and hunt, he also wrestled, boxed, and even practiced jiu-jitsu. The hero of San Juan Hill would have to be called Teddy Guns and Roosevelt. Which leads us to James Loose Buchanan. George Washington was great on horseback, but I always was more impressed by his hurling that silver dollar across the Potomac. Can you imagine the father of our country quarterbacking the Redskins? He'd throw the ball right out of the stadium. But all this athleticism, and all you see still to this day, are signs proclaiming George Washington slept here. If he really snoozed that often, we'd have to call him George Rip Van Washington. Nicknames and campaign slogans have gone hand in hand. Who can forget I Like Ike or Tippy Canoe and Tyler too? In the last election for George Bush, that famous Yale baseballer, perhaps it should have been Bird in the Hand Bush, as in he felt he was better than the other choices out there. But for the Democrats, 92 was their year, and Bill was in like Clinton. After all, he had Al, it's my party, and I'll run if I want to, Gore with him. But can they skate as well as Ross Gilbert Perot, that old saber rattler? It all gets back, though, to the Babe, as we are reminded of his famous retort when he signed a contract worth more than then-President Herbert Hoover. Hell, I had a better year than he did. There they are, the Bambino and President Hoover, obviously discussing who had more home runs and who had a better batting average that season. I majored in history at college, and it is tough, I'll admit, getting those interesting historical facts out on the air in the middle of a sportscast. My favorite part of American history, no doubt the Civil War, which would mean 1865 was a rather important date. That's when at Appomattox Courthouse, the Civil War pretty much ended when General Lee surrendered to General Grant, hence Greg Appomattox. You have a feeling he could have won the Cy Young Award back when General Abner Doubleday fought in the Civil War. Here, then, are my favorite historical nicknames, like John, I Am Not a Crook, or Roberto, Remember the Alomar. We present them chronologically.
Tired of the same old boring New Year's Eve house party?
The Frigate in Port Jefferson tempts your taste buds with delicacies.
Some of the golfers asked for nicknames, hence Freddie Ryder couples. Let's tee off on our front nine.
Birdie time! Get him in! Get it all!
Do you believe there's an actual nickname think tank? A place where clients would come, pay a fee, and they'd come up with a nickname for a product? It's true. Maybe I missed my calling. Ira Bachrach is the founder of Name Lab. Let's spend 2 minutes with Ira.
Name Lab is a company that names things. We've made names like Acura, Compact, Lumina, Geo. Basically, the client tells us what message he wants to express. A nickname is a familiar name. It's a name that you use for something that's part of your everyday life. It therefore should be short, it should be snapped in hot potato hamlet.
Wee Willie Keeler was small, and I think it's really great.
A nickname ideally would be relatively short. I think the best name in all sports is the St. Louis Blues. The word is short. The fact that it's a color makes it a very basic idea, and it's also beautiful. The Mariners are bad because it's not a word that anybody in Seattle would use as part of his everyday vocabulary. I think the Mighty Ducks is horrifying. What you say is the purpose of the team is to sell stuff.
Dazzy Vance I always thought was really slick. St. Louis Stallions, maybe that's one of the reasons they didn't get a team. Obviously something that a bunch of old guys picked. Carolina Panthers is pretty bad. Puma is an American panther. It's a short, neat word. It's a very interesting word. I think Charlotte Puma or Carolina Puma would have been a better name. Pepper Martin and Spud Davis. Everybody remembers Frankie Frisch, the Fordham Flash. What nickname did they give Chris Berman? Interesting question. To adopt the nickname Blast, it would say, hey, look, I'm real. This is sports. I'm excited. Blast Berman. I love it. I think it's fabulous.
Blast. Yeah, I think that's pretty fair. I like Blast. Thank you, Ira Bachrach. Well, it was only a matter of time before some of these nicknames started slipping into NFL prime time. Here are some of our favorites. John Connie, Sheila McCray, Audrey Meadows. It's no good. Good night, everybody. Then they burn the Redskins once with a try again. Look at that little mega throw to Chris Cab Calloway. Howdy, 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 howdy. Howdy, 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 ho. 21-yard touchdown. Way to go.
Real Boomer. And the reason I got Boomer was because I kicked a lot when my mother was carrying me when she was pregnant. That other guy they call Boomer, he's more like a cartoon character to me.
By now, you might be wondering how the old Swami here got his nicknames. Well, it all started back on the day he was born, and the stork dropped that not-so-tiny little bundle with a great big voice. And they called him Boomer, Baby Boomer. But it wasn't too long before everyone noticed something special about that voice. It sounded like Ethel Merman Berman.
There's no business like show business. There's no business.
So from then on, all his nicknames rhymed, starting with the one he got after studying history, Chris William Tecumseh Sherman Berman. And the one he got after he grew, Chris Pachyderman Berman. Well, that's a stretch. But then so's the idea you'll ever see him in sequins singing a hunk of Berman love. Oh, thank you very much. Or up on stage shaking it like Tina in Big Wheels Keep on Berman. Nah, he's just a sports fan who made it to TV to deliver his Berman sermon. In fact, he's the co-host of a new show. I'm sure you've seen it. Beavis and Berman. Da 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 da.
You know, I spend my football season sitting beside Boomer Berman, and I hear him give out hundreds of nicknames to players. But I think he deserves a nickname. It's just who should give it to him. I know who. David Letterman.
Ladies and gentlemen, here is tonight's top 10 list. The category from the home office in Sioux City, Iowa, top 10 nicknames for Chris Berman. Top 10 nicknames for ESPN's Chris Berman. Here we go, number 10, Chris Raymond Berman. Number 9, Chris Rats, Mice, and Other Berman. Number 8, Chris, the Berman of Alcatraz Berman. Number 7, Chris Berman Berman. Number 6, Chris, Run a Lame Gimmick into the Ground Berman. Number 5, Chris, Minor Celebrity Berman. Number 4, Chris, write me a top 10 list or I'll cut off your Formula One satellite feeds Berman. Number 3, Chris, I ate an entire turkey on Thanksgiving Berman. Number 2, Chris, hairline going back Berman. And the number 1 Chris Berman nickname, Mrs. Doubtfire. There you go.
I'll tell you, I don't get no respect. Thanks a lot to David, my baby. She wrote me a letterman. He and I are both minor celebrities making our living on TV, so you knew sooner or later these monikers would come around to TV and the silver screen, like J. Thurston B. Howell and Jim Hey Abbott.
Sports Center, 11:30 Eastern. Berman's Best, the nickname show, is brought to you by Topps. Collect the card that takes it to the extreme. Topps Stadium Club.
We've certainly run the route, haven't we? We've looked at lists from all over, but we've omitted one, my all-time top 10. We had great fun digging through the archives, unearthing some of the golden oldies. I think you'll remember most of these. Number 10 all-time pitcher Joaquin the Dog Andujar. Joaquin coined one of the all-time classics when he once said, you can sum up baseball in one word: you never know. Number 9 is first baseman Ken, good evening, Mr. Phelps. No Mission Impossible show started without it. Number 8, catcher Bruce Eggs Benedict. Hard to top him at breakfast. Number 7, pitcher Jim Two Silhouettes on Deshay. Remember the great hit song in the 50s by the Rays? It was redone in the 60s by Herman's Hermits. Number 6 is outfielder O to be Young Again McDowell. I'd say that's a wish for all of us. Number 5, outfielder Vaughn Purple Hayes. Jimi Hendrix, enough said. Excuse me while I kiss the sky. Number 4, Julio, Won't You Let Me Take You on a Sea Cruise? A great rocker from the 50s sung by Frankie Ford.
The Boomer, yes.
Number 3 is Astros outfielder Jose Can You See Cruz. I give my buddy Tom Mees an assist here. After all, our national anthem is played before every sporting event. Number 2, pitcher Bert Be Home Blyleven. Now, we've all heard this many times from our parents. Bert and I actually have a picture of the two of us looking down at our watches. And the number 1 nickname all time, Orioles outfielder turned broadcaster John Tonight Let It Be Lowenstein. It's baseball, it's beer, and it's funny. There they are, the all-time top 10. Boy, that half hour flew by quickly, didn't it? We'd like to thank every one of you for the opportunity to spend just a little bit of your Christmas night with you in your homes. But I guess over the years, we've kind of become extended family anyway. From all of us here at ESPN, I'm Chris Berman, or Old Saint nickname, saying Merry Christmas to all, and to all a good night.